Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up-and-coming around the Lego world. I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing today? Hopefully your day is going well, day, night, midday, wherever you are around the world. Hopefully everything is going quite swimmingly for you and not in the bad sense. Anyway, today we are here with another interview, and you know what? We are here. We are here with the magical Majidi. What a great last name. What a great last name. But anyway, we are here with Mr. Maggitti, the magician, and we're going to talk about Lego. So I hope you guys enjoy the episode. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So guys, our first interview today here at Bricks Clean is Jason Maggitti. I got it.
Yes.
And he's brought a lot of really cool stuff. I'm kind of blown away what you have over there on your table. So, okay, welcome, first of all.
Hello, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And second, is this the first time you've been to Bricks Clean?
Bricks Clean, yes.
Okay.
I've been to two brick rodeos, last two brick rodeos, and I've been building for a very long time, but I've been making my own thing. No, actually, my own things last like 3-4 years.
Okay.
But I've been building, I have a lot of the UCS Star Wars sets, and I've been building them since they came out. So that's where I did it. And what started me off actually making my own things was my daughter loved mail trucks.
Okay.
And they don't make a mail truck, an American mail truck, because it's a Danish company. So I made one. And
that started it?
That started making my own things as an adult. So even though I'd been building by instructions for a long time, for 20 some odd years after I got out of my dark ages, making my own things, it took my daughter's wanting a mail truck to get me going.
And that's all it took, a single mail truck.
That's right.
Awesome.
And then I have the Robotech Veritex.
Okay.
Is a Japanese series that was Macross and came over to the States. They called it Robotech, and it had a transforming robot to airplane. And that was the thing that I wanted to do after the mail truck. And I just was like, they don't make this. I think I'll do it. And that took me. So I saw pictures. So there's Lendy, who he is a Filipino guy who designed the Voltron.
Okay.
That became an idea set.
Yeah, yeah.
And he had made a Veritech, so this transforming robot plane.
Okay.
And I saw a picture of it, and I was like, that is awesome. But there were no instructions for it. So I'm like, all right, if I want this, I got to build it. So I looked at his pictures, and I just started. And there's so many techniques that through trial and error, banging my head against the wall sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
Just figuring things out. Like going from 4 studs to 3 studs with no gaps, making that nose cone. And I kept looking like for somebody who does a nose cone.
Right.
And I just couldn't find anybody who had it on there. So after literally about 3 weeks during the pandemic, just banging my head against the wall, making it over and over again, one day it worked. And I had no gaps, and I was like, oh, that moment came down, and it was amazing.
Awesome.
But it was probably about 9 months total.
To build the whole thing?
To build it.
Well, I guess you're trying to get all the geometry and everything, right?
And it transforms.
Well, yeah, there's that
So
too.
every time you change something,
right,
and then you transform it, it runs into something else, it doesn't fit, or something's janky.
Right. Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that part because that becomes a major issue in its own right.
Yes.
So, do you have any of that here today?
Yes. So that's over there. That's on the right hand side, next to the tall sculpture that you were talking about. My big spiral.
So let's talk about your big spiral, because when I walked in this morning, I was immediately like, "Holy crap!" Because I've not seen anything like that. Not even at Chicago Brick World this year. So, what is it? what inspired you to do it, and how in the world does it stand like it does?
A couple of things. And I'm going to say something a little later that some people will get upset about.
Okay.
Everybody has their own views on stuff. So how I came up with it was I had done a different spiral, a small spiral that I used from spare parts.
Okay.
That's one of the little small spirally things. And I was looking on YouTube, and there's this guy, the brick bender. I believe his name is Jason as well. He's out of Seattle.
Okay.
And what he does is he does some offsetting where on one side the plates are together, and on the other side of, say, like of a 2x8, there's a plate in between, so it has a little bit of a gap.
Sure.
And when you do that over and over again, it creates a circle. So he had taken the circles, the 8x8 circles, full circles, and on one side he put a 1x1 or a 1x2 plate.
Okay.
And so that creates a little gap on one side, but it's connected on the other. And then he just did a full torus of it, and I was like, that's really cool.
It is really cool.
And then he has been making stuff like that, but he also does ones where he does 1x2 bricks with 1x2 plates on top.
Okay.
And then there's just a little bit of tolerance in between each of the Lego so they can fit together. But so there's just a tiny bit wiggle that you normally don't notice. But when you make a long string of those short ones, you can actually start to bend the bricks in a row.
Sure.
Start to put force on them, and they'll create like a circle.
Okay.
And it's almost, think about like polygons for video games, where it's made of a tiny little triangles. It's almost the same principle, where it looks like a circle, but technically it's actually a bunch of small straight lines all together. And so I looked at his stuff, and I was like, this is cool. But I didn't want to make something exactly like his. A lot of his designs are ones that are basically one type of brick that is over and over again, which on mine, so for our podcast listeners to get an idea of my basic building block that I did over and over again, I have a half round plate that is 8x4, and it has two 2x8 plates on either end of it. So you have a half circle with two square rectangles coming down, and you put the rectangles, the 2x8 plates, on top of the half circle, and then you put another one on top of that. So you'd have a half circle, the two rectangle plates, and then a half circle and the two rectangle plates. And then you push them together, the rectangles on one side, and they create a little gap on next to where the half circle is. And when you keep doing that, it creates that circle motion, or not motion, but the circle shape. And so then what I did was I took that, every time I put a new one on, I moved it to the right one stud.
Okay.
And that's how I get the height.
All right.
And then I did it again and again.
And again, just
and again.
on top.
And the bricks are under a little bit of stress. So over time, they do, where they join together, because you have a big gap. Not all the studs are together.
Sure.
Throughout the whole rectangular plate. So there's a little bit of extra pressure that over time loosens up the place where the two plates are joined. So if it's together, it'll stay together. But if you move it over time, it likes to fall apart. So then that's where the glue came in. Oh, I said the word.
I can't believe you just said that.
So that's the thing that is it's the controversial thing. Some people like glue, it doesn't belong in Lego. So here's my philosophy on it. If I can make it and it'll stay together and I don't move it, then it's good.
Sure.
But I got to take it to shows. And I don't want to rebuild the whole thing.
I get that.
And this sculpture for our at-home video, our listeners, sorry, it is about 46 inches tall.
Okay.
So it's really tall. And this giant slow spiral that goes all the way up, once I got about halfway, it just couldn't support its own weight because it's only being held on the ends of each of those plates. So I got it together and it was fine, but when I moved it, now I did redesign it.
Of course, you got to go through the creative process.
Absolutely, because I didn't want to use glue, because when people would ask me, did I glue it, I could say no. I wanted to be able to say that.
Right.
Because, ultimately, people think more of you if you don't use glue, right?
There is that.
But also, I know I've met some designers that work for a Lego model shop. And when they put things on public display where nobody's going to be around, they glue it.
Yes, they do. You're right.
And so I'm like, if I can put it together and it will stay together, but then to make it viable for a public display,
sure.
If I glue it, I'm doing the same thing that they do.
Well, yeah, and some people are going to hate you for it.
I'll take the hate.
Maybe hate is a strong word, but there's always going to be people that are like, why did you glue it? What purpose is... Well, perfect reason is, like you said, it under stress, and you want to keep it and look pretty. And, I mean, just looking at it, I did take a picture of it, so I'll put it out on the social so everybody can see that goes along with the interview. But it's like one of those things, like if you don't glue it, and you run into the chance of it constantly breaking every time you move it. So you've got it on a spin turntable over there. I mean, that gives it even more accent because it's slowly spinning. So what made you decide to put it on a turntable?
So James Browder or Browden, I can't remember. He's been, I met him at Brick Rodeo 2021, and actually my Veritex were on display there.
Okay.
My transformable planes, and he happened to be right next to me, and he had a giant globe Death Star that was half Disney, half Star Wars, and it slowly rotated. And he had it on just a regular, like a turntable that you would find in a display at a store.
Oh, okay.
And he said, I could build this with Lego, but I'll have to maintain it. It'll fall apart, or I can just spend it wasn't too much, but a little bit of money and put it on, have it spin, and I take all the worry out of it. And sure. I said, that's awesome. And then when I made this big spiral, I'm like, it has to move. It has to turn just a little bit. It'll be so much better.
It captures the eye much better, I'm sure.
And so using, what I learned from him,
sure.
like, hey, if you use this, it just creates that motion that is trouble-free. And again, I know enough now over the last 4 years of creating stuff, and there's so many awesome other builders out there that if I don't know what to do, I can go find it. And if I can't, then that's when I beat my head against the wall when it doesn't work multiple times.
The ultimate, I don't know what to do, and that's like Lego creators' worst nightmare, mock builders, because you just don't know how to do it, or there's not a piece that's available to, like, I just can't get this solution because the piece hasn't been created yet,
or it's been created but it's not in the right color.
And that's I think that's the bigger case with most people.
Yes.
So you've brought that, you brought a bunch of other things. I saw you talking to a couple kids. You've got the thing over there that has the optical illusion.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that deal.
So I've seen those wind spinners out there, and I'm like, okay, I should make a Lego thing. I've been in this spinning kick lately, and so I just love optical illusions. I'm an art teacher.
Okay.
I teach elementary art.
See, I'm a elementary PE teacher, so we got something in common.
We do. We're the specials guys. So. And so I have more of an art background, but I've always been interested in electronics and different things. And I know enough to get myself in trouble, and usually can get myself out. But if I can't, I talk to somebody who does.
Yeah.
And they can.
There's plenty of them, too.
There are. I mean, the age of where you don't know something, you can Google it, and somebody somewhere, whether it's down the street or in Zimbabwe, they figured it out.
Somebody somewhere has done it before.
Yes. Or something similar enough.
Right. And you just take it and,
And actually, I just recalled something. So something else that helped to inspire my tall sculpture, I call it Skyward, the big spiral.
Okay.
They had a Lego art show in Houston, right north of Houston in spring. And they had people from across the states and the Houston Brick Club. submit things to be in an actual little art museum.
Okay.
So it's the Terry Fincher Art Museum, if I'm remembering correctly. If I get that wrong, I'm sorry. But they were looking for submissions, and I was like, well, I'm an art teacher, and if it's going to go in a fine art museum, I want to actually make a sculpture, like an art piece.
Sure.
Not that all the other stuff around here is
No.
You know, but I was like, I felt like, and mine was the only one that was kind of more artsy, other than, like, say, the mosaic type.
Sure.
And that doesn't make me better. It's different. So I don't want to be like, well, that doesn't make sense. So when I was designing that, I did want something like, abstract that could feel like somebody, if you went to an art museum. And a lot of people, when they see Skyward, they don't realize that it is made out of Lego.
Well, I mean, from the distance, Lego
We're in a
builders
Lego
can tell,
place,
but
right.
most people, if they were to see it, like, what is it's because it's plastic, but it looks like it's sculpted out of plastic.
Yes. And I did make a second one that was at the this year's Brick Rodeo, and so I took my Skyward, I made a second one.
Okay.
So it has two of the same thing, and I pushed them together, and I didn't have to glue that one, and that was that redesign until it fell apart too many times.
And you're like, where's the glue?
That's right. Well, so it was at Brick Rodeo, and it had no glue in it whatsoever. And again, I wanted to be able to say, because I had made the Skyward that was in the art museum.
Right.
I wanted to be able to say, no, I didn't use glue.
Sure.
Then on the way home, I went down the elevator, and instead of hand holding it, I had it on a cart. And the vibrations, as it's going down the elevator, it totally split apart and fell into a million pieces. And when I rebuilt it, the clutch had lost in the center, and it kept pulling out the center. So I glued it, and it was going to be here. But then when I went to put it onto my my base, I didn't realize I had flipped the colors. The color that used to be on top was light blue, and the bottom one was purple. But when I went to meet them together, the light blue was sticking up on top, and I couldn't connect it. So that didn't make it here. Because I was like, I could stay up all night and go teach art the next day and not have any sleep and try not to throw a kid out the window. Not that I would ever do that.
Hey, we've all been there, all right? We've all been there. It's one of those things you're like, dear God. Well, so what was it like when that thing fell to dozens and dozens of pieces? What was the emotion? Was it like anger, frustration, or was it like the ultimate give up, sadness, like the exhaustive sigh?
A little both. So another story about that particular sculpture is I had some lights in it, and one extra thing that I have on the inside for that one was I put a wire on the inside that would pull the two ends together, so if it did loosen up a little bit, they wouldn't completely fall apart.
There's some tension there.
A little bit of tension.
Okay.
And I just lost my train of thought. So I had put that wire in there, and I had put a light on the inside. And so the light would shine through the gaps between the plates.
Sure.
And so they were having lights out. And I had tested it before I had pulled the wire tight. But when I pulled the wire tight, it short-circuited my light. So on Friday, when we made everything, or Thursday, I put everything up, and then I tried to turn it on, and it wouldn't turn on. And it bugged me, but I'm like, oh, I'm okay. Then Friday morning, everything's all set up. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go fix this. I think I know how I can fix this light and make it work so it'll be ready for lights out in the evening. And then what happened was it fell apart completely, and I had to rebuild it. So basically my Friday, instead of playing awesome games, I was building it 3 or 4 times. Because one way, with the weight of it hanging down, when I was building it, I would actually hang it from the ceiling. Okay. Because it doesn't have the heaviness of the top weighing down the bottom.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so I was actually using the in the hotel room, I took a hanger and was hanging it off of the in the bathtub. So I'm sitting there at the bathtub, and it fell apart. Oh my gosh, I was so frustrated. That was the part where I was ready to give up.
Right.
And then my wife came in. I love my wife. She's awesome. And she said, you know what? Just get it back together. Don't worry about the lights and move on. And I cried a little bit. Yes, as a man, I cried a little bit. It was like, okay, I'll do it. And I got it together, and it was back up. And, you know, being the thing that is so tall above everything else.
Sure.
And I love how people just really are drawn to it. And so that actually made it worth it. Oh, my gosh. So fast forward to 2 days. It's Sunday, and I'm taking it home, and the same thing happens again. So that brief, like, wanting to throw it out the window and just not do anything about it was there. But I was like, you know what? I can just rebuild it. So we got back from Brick Rodeo, and it's been, you know, so that's in July. It's now September. It'd been sitting for about 2 months, just waiting for me to get back to it.
There's a show coming up. I need to get to work on this.
Yes. So you know, so anyway, again, that frustration, it was there, but being able to move on. So 2 nights ago on Friday, when I said I was rebuilding it and I realized the base colors didn't match.
Absolutely.
I got mad, and I was furious at myself for not double checking it. But then my wife again, she's like, you're upset, but she's like, it doesn't matter if the colors are flipped.
Right.
Even though artistically I think it's not. But hey, but then she's like, you should be able to let it go. And I went upstairs and I stared at it for 20 minutes, frowning, fuming. And then I realized she was right. And then I was like, I let it go, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go to this awesome show, and I met you, and thanks for having me on here.
Yeah.
And I was able to say, I'm going to enjoy it.
But you know what? And I shouldn't say no one, but majority of people aren't going to notice that.
Yeah.
You notice it because you created the thing.
And I tell my students that all the time when I'm teaching them to draw.
Sure.
And as an artist, the hardest thing is not seeing your own mistakes.
Okay.
And so every time that you make something, you know all the flaws that are in there.
Yeah.
But somebody else who's not in your brain, they're going to come and they're going to look at what it is. And what it is to them is something magical or awesome or touches them a certain way. They don't know that you didn't do something right.
Right.
So they see your final thing and they're impressed by it, and that's what really makes it worth it. And you got to be able to take yourself out of that, and that's hard for every artist. And it's hard for my elementary kids to understand. But I hope that telling them about it, and then one day that light bulb goes off.
Yeah.
That person comes along and they're like, oh, okay. And MC Escher actually talked a bit about that. I love his art. They had a big show of his in Houston, and he always was down on himself because he's a graphic designer, but he was very mathematically inclined as well. And so he kind of felt sometimes that he couldn't make the visions in his head come out, even though his stuff was amazing.
Right. Well, I guess that's the artist's curse.
Yes. The creator's curse.
A creator's curse, there you go.
Of some sort. Knowing those flaws, but being able to let them go and not worry about it, and enjoy it. So,
well, people aren't enjoying your stuff. Let's talk about your Lego journey. I mean, you started out, like you said, making a mail truck, postal truck.
Yeah.
Where were you before that?
So
you've gone from Lego. You never did it.
So I did Lego as a kid.
Of course.
Classic Space. I loved those. Played a whole bunch of Classic Space. There was that, I always forget the name of it, the mobile missile launcher.
Man, I don't know.
I built it in the 80s, so that's when I was growing up. And they made the Classic Space stuff. So I was right at that time. I had gotten into Lego, and I enjoyed Lego, and I would build with it until I got to middle school, high school type, and kind of let it go. And then when I was going into college, when I was in college, Phantom Menace came out.
All right.
And I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And the kids always ask me, and I'm sure you get this too, how old are you?
Yes, of course.
And my answer always is, because I won't tell them, not that I really care, but just, you don't need to ask me. But they want to know. They're curious. Yeah. Kids are curious. And I love that about them, and that's why I love teaching them. But they'll say, how old are you? And I'll say, old enough to have seen the original Star Wars in 1977. And they hear that, and they think dinosaurs.
When was 1977?
That's so long ago. So I was old enough to go to the movie theater in 1977 to see Star Wars. And so that's how I do that. So I've loved Star Wars and Lego. And so when I was in college, that's when they did their first IP. Yeah. And to me, it's like chocolate and peanut butter came together. And I got back into Lego.
You got your Reese's.
Exactly. I got into Lego back into Lego because of Star Wars and Lego. Because I had collected figures and stuff over the years.
Yeah.
And so after college, I worked at a video game store. I went to art school to get into game development.
All right.
And so I didn't get picked up right away out of college, so I worked for the retail side. And so I went to KB one time, and they had the Star Wars UCS, X-Wing, and TIE Fighter on clearance. So I bought those, and I think it was $70 for the original one, and $35 for the TIE Fighter. And then over the years, I've bought more of them when I could, and so I enjoyed building it. You're zoning out and following instructions. Even though I'm an artist, I love the instructions.
Yeah, well, and it's funny you mention that because a lot of the Lego designers that I've talked to that work in billing, that's one of their things. Like they love their job, but there's something cathartic about just following instructions and going through and being told, put this piece here, put this piece there.
And then your mind is blown when you're like, you don't know what you're building, and then all of a sudden like, oh, that's what it is. Yeah. That's why I did all this weird stuff. and it's those connections that get made. And so, still making the UCS stuff to the day. Sure. And actually now, I really have noticed that the 18 plus makes a big difference because there is a lot of very advanced stuff. So getting back to the classic space, they had that new Galaxy Explorer come out.
Yes, absolutely.
And the build techniques on that are amazing.
They're incredible.
They're great.
Yeah.
Totally different from taking that original Galaxy Explorer that just about anybody could make.
Sure.
And really making you think like, how did I get this look? Oh, this is sideways.
Yeah.
Oh, I put this little paddle thing into a hole, and that allows me to get my diagonals are...
I know. The diagonals on that are incredible. Just the way it was done. I was sitting there building it, and I'm like, this is a visual bit, but my mouth was just wide open. I was just like, oh, my God. Because it was so neat. They're always doing new things, but I think I didn't have a whole lot of classic space when I was a kid, but I think being around that time, some of the nostalgia of it, that made it even better. Even though the build was awesome, that kind of comes back as well, and you're like, this is so amazing.
So being a child of the 80s,
sure.
Transformers as well. So when Optimus Prime, and I'm building that one, awesome techniques.
I'm not going to say anything then.
The whole time there's that Macklemore song, This Is Blank and Awesome. That was going through my head the whole time. I'm like, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome. That song, just that bit of that song played over and over in my head the whole time I was building it because I never thought it would happen.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my transformable planes, I say, well, they fall apart all the time because Lego and Transformers weren't really supposed to go together, and they proved me wrong.
They did. They proved you way wrong. But you know what? That's one of those things like that was such a big jump for them to have something that transformed, didn't fall apart. You didn't have to take pieces off. Well, you're not done building it. I'm not going to say anymore, but
I did build. I did. I finished the whole thing.
Okay,
but I'm saying the whole time I was doing it.
It just blows my mind. And then I've talked to many people, and they say, "God, I hope there's more. I hope we get this, or I hope we get that." And I hope they do because they have I can't remember his name, the designer that used to do Transformers for Hasbro.
Yeah, Mega Bloks, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So it's one of those things like, let's go. Give us some more.
He's come over, and I'll tell you, there are so many great designs that are not on Lego, and I build with my bricks.
Yeah.
Fully Lego.
Yeah.
I wish that Lego, when it comes to motors and stuff, could come down in price a bit. Yes. And I've been able to find nice alternatives that are just about the same, maybe not perfect quality, but for motors, so much more cheaper and affordable.
Right.
And the circuit cubes, have you heard of these? They're tiny. So they have tiny little motors that literally are...
Yeah, I don't think so, but...
They're 2 bricks high.
Okay.
And a 2x4 plate size.
All right.
So that's small.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful, strong motor. And they also, and this is what really sold me on them, the power pack for it is lithium ion, so it's rechargeable. You don't have to have a whole bunch of waste. It's that is 4x4x2.
Okay.
So 2 bricks high, not plates but bricks, 4x4, rechargeable with Bluetooth, and you can control it with your phone. And it's like $60 for 3 motors and that.
Okay.
Versus if I get just a straight up motor from Lego.
Yeah.
That's $30.
Then you need this other connection piece. Then you need the hub.
And it's not bad. Don't get me wrong, Lego.
No.
I love you, Lego, but do what they're doing.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's one of those things. I think they take a. They definitely watch what the community does. Mm-hmm. I mean, they listen to the community as far as the 18 plus, and
yes.
they really went head over heels with it, and we're just like, we're going full in, pushing all the chips. And I think having discussions with some of the design teams, and I think, I have no idea, but I just have this feeling that they're going to start doing more of that, mm-hmm. because you've got other third parties, whatever, that are doing it, and they're doing it really, really well. And
it's sustainable, and they love sustainable. Yes. And I don't like the AA batteries. They're heavy. Now, if I have a train and I need extra weight, batteries are great. Somebody was telling me what they do is they just take their old batteries and they use it as ballast for their trains.
Well, and I've talked to somebody that uses lead weights. And I was like,
just don't lick it.
Right. It's like, okay, that's interesting. But okay. So are you going to any other shows in the future? I know Brick Rodeo is not until next summer.
So I will be doing, because I live in Houston, and big with the Houston Brick Club, who are an amazing group of people. I was going to say guys, but no, it's everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what's awesome about it. And they welcome my daughter to every event. So kids are welcome too, as long as they're coming with her. And she's big into it too. She showed at the Brick Rodeo this year.
But that's the next generation.
Yeah.
That is the next generation. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, showing at Brick Rodeo. And the table that I was next to up in Chicago during Chicago Brick World, it was a table of creations that kids had made. Mm-hmm. It was like probably 40, 50 creations, and they were so cool. And, that's the next generation of mock builders right there.
Yeah.
So it's great when lugs or clubs or whatever groups have kids come to shows and display, because it takes a lot of what's the word I'm looking for?
Determination
and being able to display. I mean, kids
see something go through.
Yeah.
So my wife, she went to art school as well. She's also an elementary art teacher.
Sure.
And she was a sculpture major. And she actually had something at Brick Rodeo this year. Did you go to it this year?
I was not able to this year.
She made this awesome chicken that is driven by dinosaurs, and it was called Evolution.
Okay.
I will send you a picture.
Yeah, I'm going to
I almost brought it with me. It was her first build by Lego.
Okay.
It is amazing. Mine's a mail truck. Hers is this, 15-inch tall robot chicken driven by dinosaurs called Evolution. And she won Best Sculpture. She beat out my big spiral thing.
Okay.
First time building with Lego ever. And but she has that sculpture thing. She could see 3-dimensionally. She can bring things together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm super proud of her. Now I was her like, hey, I need this piece.
Right.
And we're building in the same room,
right.
so I want something that does this. So I'm like, okay, here you go. And then, I want something that does this. Oh, here you go. So she had a good.
She had an assistant.
She had an assistant who knew what she was trying, or if she was telling me what she wanted to do, I could do it. But she built pretty much all of it. There was only one thing initially structurally making the base of the chicken. I told her the wrong thing, and she didn't want to go backwards. She's like, the reason you take so long is you keep rebuilding it.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I know you're telling me it's going to be better, but I'm not going to take this apart and fix it. So she went shopping, and then I fixed it. But I couldn't get everything back together, so I told her, I said, hey, you're going to hate me. And she did. She was very mad at me when I told her I had gone back and undid
the chicken.
But I put it back together pretty much the way she had it. And when she was mad at me until she went and looked at it, and she noticed I did not change the look. And what it is the one leg has the primary weight of the whole body on it.
Sure.
And I knew that the way I originally had told her was once she got the rest of the weight of that chicken on, it was going to fall over and she's going to have so many problems.
Sure.
So I saved myself and her some heartache by fixing it. And I apologize, but you know that she knows that it was something that, she realized that I respected her enough that I did not change anything else other than making it structurally viable. And she did the rest of it all on her own without me doing, other than having somebody who has figured things out, how to do stuff. And there's things that she did. I was like, oh, I wouldn't have done that, but that works great.
Yeah. You're bouncing ideas off of one another in the same room. So you've got a bunch of stuff. Is there anything that you're currently building or building maybe for Brick Rodeo next year in Sugarland that you're like, I'm going to keep it under wraps, but or maybe you're like, you know what, here's what I'm working on.
Here's what I'm working on. Okay, so I have two of my spiral skywards. So I have one that's the single that's here.
Right.
I have the one that I will refinish once I rebuild the base. That's the double one. And then as I was building both of those, I was thinking of taking another spiral and going the opposite way and creating kind of almost like a flame-ish kind of looking thing. So take what I have there, flip it upside down, push it back together. But that one, I'm like, it's going to be pointy at the top and the bottom. So that one I think I'm going to hang. So it'll be like a hanging version of it.
That'll be neat.
And it'll probably spin.
I
like
course.
the spinning.
The spinning works. It captures the eye, like I said before.
So that's that's my next part of that I want to do. But the Robotech, I still love the Robotech. I've thought about doing a double-size version of it, making it even bigger. Some of the things that I learned from doing the Optimus Prime, which is, about a size and a half over how tall my Veritechs are now. I was like, some of these would work for my Veritech. Maybe I'll do that again. Well, maybe I'll go somewhere new. One thing I haven't done, I love Star Wars. I haven't done, well, that's not entirely true, but I haven't done a full bottom to top Star Wars something.
Sure.
But one of the other things over there, I got the Hailfire Droid, Technic Hailfire Droid from 2002.
Okay.
And they have these giant wheels that everybody thinks are not Lego, but they are. Yeah. They're like now $35 a pop or something like that. But anyway, you could move those and you could push your Hailfire Droid. So it's got, for people who don't know, it has two giant wheels that are slightly tilted with a kind of body in the center, and it has these missile racks up on top. But you could push it along and the wheels would turn.
Sure.
So it had gears in it, and at the time, when 2002, I was like, this needs motors. But I didn't, like I said, I wasn't making my own thing.
Sure.
So then when I started making my own thing with the motors, I'm like, hey, now it's time. So I motorized it, and people love it. They think it's great, and it's really strong. I modified a few parts at it, so I wouldn't have to keep pushing some parts together all the time.
Sure.
And I let the kids drive it. They love it, and it's so amazing. Seeing the joy on their face. I still like driving it myself.
Right,
you get to drive it later too.
Well, I was watching you. Do it earlier when you had a group of people in front of it. I was like, that's pretty sharp.
And then the one thing they always said though has the missiles on top. Does it shoot? And then I'm like, well, hey, I'm making it move. Isn't that good enough?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
It's not.
So I made it shoot now. So now it shoots. So awesome. They have those big, it's like the 2-inch projectile shooters.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking
about.
With
the big rubber thing
on the end. Yeah.
And I thought about all the other projectile things they had, but that one, I strung 4 of them together, and I made, and I didn't know exactly what I had made, because again, I'm more of a tinkerer than actually knowing things. Somebody's like, I made a cam of the little rubber 1x2.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So those are spaced all the way around an axle, and when it turns, those rubber things just touch the little trigger mechanism just enough that it makes them shoot.
Okay.
And so it just turns and it goes tink, 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 and
That's
you can
cool.
just shoot them a long way. So I figured out how to do that, and there's the guy who does the GBC, the Japanese Yoshido Isagawa.
I don't know.
I apologize if that's not your name, but I think it's close enough. You look up GBC, and that guy, he's been doing things forever.
For a long time.
He has books and stuff, and so I looked at how he did one with the worm gear, because it was going so fast that you hit the button, it was just like, and everything was out. And so I wanted it to be able to go, shoot slower. So doing a worm gear, but not making it super large.
Right.
I looked at his book, saw it, and then I was like, all right, now how do I get this into my missile thing? And that's how I got it.
But you did it.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap up this, guys. You can check out this. Well, you're listening to this interview. Do you have any social media?
I
do much of social media. I know
yes
some people do.
I'm on Facebook. Jason Majidi, Wonder Monkey is my handle there. I have Instagram, which Jay Majidi. I will give it to you.
Okay.
I can look it up on my phone. I post there. I'm getting better about posting things, and I'd like more people to be able to see my stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that's the big thing, because when you have that opportunity to be able to come to a show and you see things in person, that's great. But when you go through Instagram, you follow #Lego or whatever, and stuff that pops up, you're like, oh, that is so cool. And it gives so many people inspiration and ideas. They're like, you know what, I want to try this in the future. I want to try that in the future. So,
all right. So do you know how to look up your own name?
Do you know how to look up your own name?
On
Instagram?
So I pulled out my phone, boys and girls, and all that, and he's looking at it right now to see if we can get it. If not, you can
so
edit this out.
it is J Magidi. It's Maggitti. It's like almost spelling Mississippi, just with a different name.
Exactly. Well, real quick aside, so when I teach the kids to glue things together, instead of saying Mississippi, I'll say, okay, now count. 1, Mr. Maggitti. 2, Mr. Maggitti. 3, Mr. Maggitti. They think it's hilarious.
It's the same thing.
And
I love it.
There you go. And so, so I don't say Mississippi anymore. It's Mr.
There you go. It's Majidi. Well, it was a pleasure having you on. Hopefully I get to run into you at Brick Rodeo next summer.
But I do plan, hopefully, maybe to get to Brick World Chicago.
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
We'll see. Next year.
With Brick Rodeo also being in the summer, but I am off summer, so I might be able to get up there.
Yeah, and that's when I hit shows heavy. It's like, all right, let's go.
I'd love to do that. And then I have a friend who lives in Seattle, so maybe
that's one I need to get to.
Going to another one.
Hopefully.
So
yeah,
it's beautiful up there.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, thanks for coming on, and
thanks for
all
having
your
me.
stuff.
I appreciate it,
guys. You can make sure you follow my Instagram. You can see the photos of his stuff here in the next couple days, and then his as well, Jay Maggitti. And that's going to wrap this up, guys. Well, that'll do it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Another great interview with a great mock builder, somebody that has created so many interesting things that you may probably have never seen. But the point is, this is a way to bring it to you. Whether or not you can see it or not, you have an opportunity to be able to feel what is going on with it. So until we meet again, I'm your Minifigure host, Matt. Let's build on it.